Hello. Today is 8.00a Algebra 2 notes. It's on circles, and it should be a review for you guys from geometry when you talked about circles. So real quick, let's just do a review of our standard form for a circle, which is given right here. X minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Your h and your k are your center, and remember from geometry, you always want to take the opposite signs when you find the h and the k. So see here in the parentheses, it's x minus h, but the x coordinate of your center is positive h, not negative h. And the radius we get by taking the square root of whatever it said equal to. So number one, identify the center and the radius of the given equation. So here, there's nothing being added or subtracted to that x. So that's like the same thing as saying that, because x minus 0 is just x. So that tells us that our center has an x coordinate of 0, and our y coordinate, we're going to take the opposite sign, would be 12. To find the radius, we're going to take the square root of 8, put that in simplest radical form. So that's rad 4 times rad 2, which gives us 2 rad 2 for the radius. Number 2, I gave you the center and the radius, and I want you to give me the equation. So again, you have to have this equation memorized. So we take x, it's minus negative 2, so that becomes plus 2. Here, that's why you change the signs. Plus y minus 6 quantity squared, this is your h and your k, equals 3 rad 2 squared. Now that quantity squared, and you cannot leave it like that. So in your calculator, remember when you type in 3 rad 2 and square it, you either need to do double parentheses around the whole thing, do a set of parentheses, or I usually do it as I just type in 3 rad 2, I hit enter, and then squared. What you're actually doing there is you're squaring the 3 to get 9 and squaring the rad 2 to get 2, and 9 times 2 is 18. So this would be your final answer. The one I first wrote is not in simplest form yet. Writing the equation of a circle in standard form, given it in expanded or general form. So this is what we're calling expanded form. What it is if I took this one in number 2 and I FOILed out the x plus 2 squared, so x plus 2 times x plus 2, then I took y minus 6, wrote that twice, FOILed that out, combined some like terms, this is what I would get right here. So it's longer, there's no parentheses, nothing that needs to be FOILed out there. Write an equivalent expression by completing the square here. So to do this one, first of all, I'm going to look and I see that the x squared and the y squared both have a 4 in the front there. So I'm going to start by dividing the entire equation by 4 because it's the coefficient of x squared and y squared. With a circle, the coefficient of x squared and y squared will always be the same. So I'm going to divide this side by 4, and I'm going to divide my other side by 4. So I get, let's see, let's make this a 1. We're going to get x squared. 24 over 4 is going to give us negative 6x plus y squared plus 72 divided by 4 will give us 18y, and 76 divided by 4 will give us 19. All right, so my x's are all grouped together here, and my y's are too. I'm just going to rewrite this with a little blank here. So x squared minus 6x blank, and group those together, plus y squared plus 18y blank equals 19. So what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square for the x's, and we're going to complete the square for the y's. So over here, I'm going to do the x terms. And I know those of you who had Mrs. Locke, she calls it the B box. And we've talked about this when we completed the square, which you're going to have to do as part of your homework, a review on completing the square completely completing the square. So we're going to take b over 2 quantity squared and we're going to do negative 6 over 2 squared, which gives us negative 3 squared, which gives us positive 9. So I'm going to add 9 into this set of parentheses. If I add 9 to that side, I've got to add 9 to this side. Okay, let's do the y's. So b over 2 quantity squared is going to be 18 over 2 squared. Remember, you always use your new b, not the old b. So the old b would have been 72y. We want to use the 18. You're not newbies at this. And 9 squared gives us 81. We're going to add 81 into there. And then we're going to rewrite the x terms as a perfect squared binomial. So to do that, you're really just doing x plus b over 2, or x plus whatever it was before you squared it, so minus 3 squared. Here we're going to do y plus whatever it was before you squared it, so plus 9 quantity squared. Oh, and I never wrote in my plus 81 over here. So then I want to add up all these numbers together, and I get 109. And that would be an equivalent expression. Now, just a reminder, this was on a Regents question as well, and they didn't divide by 4 for one of the choices and left it all multiplied. So if I were to write another equivalent expression, I don't want to confuse you, but just so you're aware, since this was on a Regents, if I multiply this whole thing by 4, I have to multiply everything by 4, including that 109. So that would be 436. So this is also an equivalent expression. So if you had gotten this for your answer, that's the same as this, which they're all equivalent to this original equation. Okay, so this is the way we usually do, is we just divide by the 4 at the beginning, and then we get that for our answer. Okay, let's try another one. Find the radius and the center given this equation. So for this one, there's Gianni. Let's start again by dividing everything by 8. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. So this gives me x squared. 4 over 8 is going to give me 1/2 x plus y squared equals 0. So a little bit shorter, so we don't have to add anything. All right, we don't have a b value for the y squared, so we're really just completing the square for the x's. So I'm going to leave a blank here, and there's no constant to add over, so I'm just going to leave that like that. So over here I'm going to do my x's. So my b for this one is 1/2. So in your calculator, you can do 1/2 over 2, or you can do flip your 2 to 1/2, which gives me 1/4. So really I'm squaring 1/4, which gives me 1/16. Again, you can just type in 1/2 over 2 in your calculator, hit enter, then hit squared. So we're going to add 1 over 16 here, which means we have to add 1 over 16 here. Now we're going to rewrite this as a perfect squared binomial. So we take whatever it was before we squared it. So that's going to be x plus 1/4, same as b divided by 2. Leave your y squared. 0 plus 1/16 is 1 over 16. And your center for this one is going to be negative 1/4, because that's what's being added to the x. Remember, take the opposite signs. Nothing's being added to the y. So this is like the very first one we did, number 1, with the x squared. There was nothing being added, so it's just a 0. Some students want to write 1 there, but if it had been 1, then it would be y minus 1 quantity squared. And our radius, we're going to take the square root of 1 over 16. The square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 16 is 4. So the radius is 1/4. The center is negative 1/4, comma 0. All right, and number 5, write an equivalent expression and then find the center and the radius of the circle. All right, so I would say here at this point, we've done a couple of each of these. So pause the video and do numbers 5 and 6 on your own. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to give you guys the answers here. I'll give you the final equation and the answer. And then if you do have any questions on it, then just let me know and I can go over these a little bit more with you, or if we need to set up a Google Meet. Make sure your radius is in simplest radical form. Make sure you take the opposite sides for your center. And number 6, the final equation would be this. And then it asks for the center, which is 5, 1, and the radius, square root of 9, would be 3. And that's it for this video. Again, if you're struggling with those last two, please let me know, and we can go over them a little bit more or do some more practice with that. And I hope you are all staying healthy, having fun, and loving math, and pie out.